It is the end of the world as we know it. I'm not sure we feel fine. It is the end of the world as we know it because these are coming. What are these? Flip-flops. These are flip-flops. This is the footwear of choice for the next generation in the workplace. This is the footwear of choice. Now, I took these out of my son's closet. He's a middle millennial. The other thing we understand about millennials is that they've got it covered. No sweat. These are his everyday flip-flops, and these are his dress flip-flops. You got it. Now, in my generation, these were not shoes. This wasn't even footwear. This is what you wore at a KOA campground because you saw the feet of the people 2 campsites over, and you did not want your feet touching the same shower house floor that their feet touched. Now, my father doesn't call these things flip-flops. What's my father call these? Thongs. He calls these thongs, which crack my kids up because they will kick off their flip-flops at my parents' house, and my dad will say, "Move your thongs out of the way before somebody trips." Dad, Grandpa calls them thongs. Grandpa calls them thongs. You know, it's just awkward when you have the little sit down with your father and explain to him what a thong means today. It's just an awkward family moment. But it's not just flip-flops. It's not just flip-flops. It's how we communicate. Right? How we communicate. It's whether or not we believe earbuds are appropriate at the work desk. It's meetings. It's what start time means. 8-ish or 10 minutes till 8, right? It's how we get things done. It's when we work. It's who makes the decisions. Flip-flops is just one small example of the fact that we even use language differently. It's as if we were from different countries. Millennials, 16% now. In 5 years, 27%. 1 out of 4 people in the workplace will come with their flip-flops in their bag. They will change their shoes when they get in there. For a while, here's what I predict. In 8 years, flip-flops will be formal business wear. I see some people shaking their head. I had a woman at State Farm say to me over my dead body, I said, statistically speaking, probably. It wasn't managed for you. You would take the initiative. You'd leave the house. You'd get some bases. You'd clear off a lot. You'd do what you had to do. We lived in the country, so we learned to stamp down the ground in front of us in case the ball took a bad hop. You learn to pay attention to your grounders when you learn to take bad hops. But I remember my wife handing me a sheet that came in the mail when my oldest son was 6. For T-ball, he had to get we're all adults here, he had to get a cup. Because baby boomers have more lawyers than any other generation. The problem is, first graders don't need a cup. And so, because they don't need a cup, they touch their cup. How many of you watch your son in left field because there's nothing going on, and they're just sitting there? And every parent is calling their children in to the stands, and they are not coaching them on batting skills. Here's what they're saying: quit touching yourself. Because boomers managed everything with their children. And they did it all with dialogue. Well, what would you like? And tell me about your feelings, right? Hey, it was a different generation when I grew up. Here was the amount of dialogue we had going on vacation. You ready? My dad would wake us up and he would say, Haydn, get in the car. That was the amount of discussion and dialogue we had about where we were going. Well, I don't want to stop at Waffle House. Fine. Stay in the... And in Tennessee, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the summertime, you can last for about 20 minutes. All right, I'll have a waffle and a lot of water. The car is very sweaty now, you know, because it was all vinyl seats, wasn't it? Short pants on vinyl seats. Yeah. So there was a lot more dialogue. Now, when millennials come into the workplace and they say, hey, I'd like to talk about that policy, and their boomer boss looks at him and says, well, let's talk about whether you're going to be fired or not. They go, hello, I got to help contribute to whether or not we went to Seattle or whether we went to Portland. Do I get to contribute here? Yeah, you get to contribute with the junk jobs. Now sit down, shut up, and keep your hands in the bus. And then we say, these people aren't loyal. They're just not loyal. They think that organizations are insane. They received a lot of attention. I was in the delivery room with all 4 of my kids. It was one of the prized experiences of my life, but today many people film that. And so all a child has to do to get attention is come out. Before you had to get a trophy or win something to get a picture on a Polaroid, because those were expensive. But today with digital, it's just like, hey, come out, there you are, ta-da. You don't have to do anything to get attention. But my daughter, Kate, we hadn't had a girl in 70 years on my father's side of the family. She is a spoiled princess child. I'm objective. And I'm also objective enough, despite how much I love Kate, to know that she can't dance she didn't dance when she was 6. None of the girls at 6 would dance. So here we are burning a nice Saturday in May. And she's first grade. She was done. And I said to my wife, can we leave? No, there are still many more girls to go. You would hurt their self-esteem. What if everybody left? They may try harder next time. No, so I'm playing my trio phone. I'm playing Space Invaders, and my boys are all lined up next to me. Come on, Dad, share. No, get your own. Desperate times, every man for himself. Mom wouldn't let us bring our Game Boy. This is not a Game Boy. This is a business tool. And I'm big point score. I finally fell asleep. I'm not making this up. I fell asleep, and after 3 hours of year after year of bad dancing, the whole place woke me up by being on its feet applauding for these girls. And I stared like I had fallen into a parallel universe because it was a standing ovation. And the girls I saw sucked. One of them, there were all these little 7-year-olds getting a dozen roses. One of them got a tiara, and their grandparents flew in from another part of the country. All you got to do is be born. Ta-da. First birthday, a poo-poo. Ta-da. And then they all did their little curtsy thing. Ta-da. Stop it, you suck. They'll never face reality this way. And so what happens is people go, they want to be in the middle of the decisions. They want to be engaged right away. They want, they really want all this attention. Hello, who raised the millennials? Yeah, we have 4 generations now, 5 generations of customers because children 6 and under have a huge influence on discretionary spending in families, do they not? 5 generations of customers, 4 generations simultaneously, and we can't talk about footwear in the same words. Succession planning. Baby boomers who own businesses, 96% of them in a recent survey said they need an exit plan. 87% of them don't have it. But over the next decade, one generation is going to largely leave the workplace, at least full-time, and a whole nother generation is going to come on. More than that, there's the tensions day in and day out, and that doesn't even come with what happens with customers. If you're in healthcare, when a millennial provides care, a millennial nurse provides care to a traditionalist, the customer satisfaction scores go down even if the millennial is doing exceptional work. Because it feels different, much less formal in the way they engage with folks, and unconsciously they're talking 2 different languages, and it makes a business impact if you are working hard for customer satisfaction numbers. It's one of those things we gotta figure out. Stephen M. R. Covey has breakthrough idea about trust is that it's not soft, it's hard. Most of us think that trust is a soft thing. I think we just have a trust problem. It's a chemistry problem in this group. Nothing we can do about it. It's genetic. Some people are trusting. Some people have trust. Some people build trust. Some people don't. What he's determined is that trust is very hard. There are certain behaviors and certain cores that if a person gets in place, they can build trust. Organizations can actually do something about trust and not complain about lack of trust. As a matter of fact, trust is easy to find. It's easy to measure. And when it's easy to measure, it's easy to do something about. The breakthrough is you don't have to pray for people to be more trusting. You don't have to go off onto woods and jump out of trees into each other's arms for trust falls. Heavens, how many people have been to trust falls on Friday out in the woods, and on Monday, when you fell backwards, the rest of the team let your head hit twice on the pavement because that was the woods and this is work. There are real and actual things we can do that make a distinct difference in working with trust. Nothing is as fast as trust. Nothing is as fast and as cheap as trust. We all know the taxes we pay when people don't trust each other. When there's distrust, or when people counterfeit trust. The opposite of the truth, being honest, is lying. But you know, the counterfeits are much more dangerous. We can spot a lie. The counterfeits are the dangerous ones. You've ever been in a workplace and worked with somebody who told you everything in an honest and true way? They just left half the story out of it and gave you a completely different impression. They counterfeited honesty. They didn't do its opposite, they did its counterfeit. Counterfeits slow down how quickly we can move in organizations. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was working with an executive team, and we were working with trust, and there were some places where they were stuck. And once we identified what the counterfeits were, they were able to identify the ones that were causing them the trouble, and they began to make significant progress even there before the day was over, in getting out the real stuff on the table and dealing with the things that were holding the business back. Because nothing is as fast as trust.